Jake Roberts could control the demons. Jake Roberts could be one of the most influential, creative forces in our industry.
The world of professional wrestling is, sadly, one where there is just as many stories of tragedy as there are triumphs. This has been documented brilliantly on shows such as Vice's Dark Side of the Ring, but what about those unique wrestling personalities that are so huge that they can somehow come out the other side?
I wanted to hear my father say, "I'm proud of you, son. I'm really proud of you." You know, he never told me that.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're going to be taking a look at the tragic story of Jake the Snake Roberts. Actually, we need to start off first with a not-so-massive spoiler. Jake the Snake is actually doing quite well, thank you very much. He's currently working for All Elite Wrestling in a managerial position and is able to look back at his career that's influenced countless professional wrestlers over the years.
Never, ever turn your back on somebody you respect or you're afraid of.
It wasn't always this way, of course, because the man born as Aurelian Smith Jr. is actually the survivor of what was, by all accounts, a tremendously traumatic childhood.
Real name is Aurelian Smith Jr. Now you know why I went with Jake the Snake.
This is due largely to the looming presence of Jake's father, Aurelian Sr., who was also a professional wrestler, performing most famously under the name Grizzly Smith. The Smiths were a wrestling family, although most fans at home were barely aware that Jake, his brother Sam Houston, and sister Rockin' Robin held familial ties.
There was no pat each other on the back shit. There was no, "I'm happy for you." You would have never thought we were brothers and sisters, that's for sure.
Grizzly Smith was staunchly protective of the industry's kayfabe code of keeping the fictional storylines as real as possible, and according to Jake, did everything he could to sabotage Roberts' entry into the business.
He didn't want me in wrestling, period. In fact, he got me fired a couple places, asked the promoters to fire me, to get me out.
Aurelian Sr., by his own admission, came from an abusive household and tragically passed that tradition onto his kids, often playing them against one another for his affection.
That was my whole drive. I got into wrestling because I hated my father. And I was going to break it off in his ass. I wanted to hear my father say, "I'm proud of you, son."
Robin, along with the rest of her family, were interviewed for the Dark Side of the Ring episode titled In the Shadow of Grizzly Smith, and she detailed some fairly harrowing memories of her childhood. These included abuse at the hands of her father, as well as evidence she claimed backed up long-standing rumors of Grizzly being a predator.
You come out of that real confused and real, had no idea how to process that.
Dark Side of the Ring wasn't the only time Smith's home life was brought up for a documentary, as Jake himself had been the subject of many over the years.
It was depressing seeing Jake in such bad shape, but when it came time to perform,
Ladies and gentlemen,
he could still turn it on.
The most infamous of these was probably Beyond the Mat from 1999, where Jake revealed not only his strained relationship with Aurelian Sr., who appeared on camera with his son, but also his own personal demons and struggles with substance abuse.
I just don't want to hurt no more. I don't want to hurt you no more.
Beyond the Mat showcased some of the darkest moments of Jake's personal life, balancing the Snake's highlights in the ring with the crashing lows that came after his profile peaked in the WWE.
That wasn't much fun.
We need to backtrack a bit now, specifically to reference just how great Jake the Snake Roberts was during his time in the WWF/WWE. Roberts had cut his teeth in the United States territory system for different promotions, before all his hard work developing his personality and character led him to work for Vince McMahon.
Don't come calling me a sicko, because brother, if you look at yourself in the mirror, I think you'll find out one thing. You're no different than me if you tell yourself the truth.
Jake the Snake was never going to fit into McMahon's preferred mold of physically large, dominant male wrestlers, so he had to find a different angle. Jake was an expert talker and developed a speaking style during his promos that was positively chilling. His personality wasn't blustery or full of bravado, but instead was one that spoke softly with a menace that was absolutely chilling. Jake wasn't just vocalizing empty threats, but rather using his voice in a way that was getting him over with the fans on a psychological level. This made it easier for Roberts' character to eventually turn babyface or good guy, despite the fact that his dark and foreboding promo style made him sound like someone the fans wouldn't want to cheer. This isn't an insult by any means, because the WWF fans actually found Jake to be the coolest, from his killer opening theme music to his purposeful walk, steely stare, and of course, his pet python Damien. Meanwhile, his work in the ring didn't rely on power moves, but agility and counterattacks that actually made sense within the fictional context of a scripted match. Plus, Roberts had the ultimate equalizer at his disposal, his DDT finisher, which at the time was one of the most feared maneuvers in the wrestling business. After leaving WWE in the early 90s, he returned to work for Vince just as the company's new generation era was about to transition into the now infamous Attitude Era. Jake's new character was a Christian conservative, and at this point, Roberts' struggle with substance abuse was becoming more well known, to the point where WWE referenced it during Roberts' feud with Jerry the King Lawler.
Okay, I cheat. You want to play 21? I got 22.
Jake's rock-bottom appearances on the independent circuit, such as the Heroes of Wrestling event in 1999, where a visibly intoxicated Roberts was in no shape to compete, eventually led to a redemption story that was documented in yet another film, The Resurrection of Jake the Snake in 2015.
The only passion I had was wrestling. Had to give it up. I had a life, but I poisoned it.
The film details Roberts' relationship with fellow wrestler Diamond Dallas Page, whose exercise and lifestyle program, DDP Yoga, is credited with saving Jake's life.
I'm just worried, man, that my mind's not in sync with me completely ever quit drinking.
The film doesn't shy away from the hard work Jake put in to stick to the program, remain accountable for his actions, and eventually make his way to a healthier place in life.
One more time, we start over again, bud.
Jake the Snake getting all of his mental and physical health in order is all the more impressive, given all the obstacles in his way. Roberts stated in Beyond the Mat how he made it his mission to become a better wrestler than his father, if for no reason other than spite. And although most of Jake's fans will likely agree that this mission was a success, the story of the Snake is really about much more than just professional wrestling.
At 58 years young, is back in the ring so he can walk away from the business on his own terms.
It's a story about Aurelian Smith Jr., of Jake the Snake Roberts, a son, a father, and a brother. It's a tale about trauma, tragedy, and redemption. It's not perfect, wrapped up in a bow, but it's a work in progress.
I've been sober now for 10 years. 10 years. I did it. I made it all the way back.
Professional wrestling was lucky to have Jake the Snake Roberts then as an entertainer, and it's lucky to have him now as a source of knowledge. More than anything, however, the story of Jake Roberts is one of survival.
But we will see if the whole thing is going in. Are you serious?
Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.